What's up, Dino members? It's Crunch Gamer here. Welcome back to another video, and today is the day. Today is the day that I go over some generic video game aspects and how they translate into my game. I'm very excited about this video, and I hope you guys are too. Also, keep in mind that everything in this video is subject to change. I am always changing this game because I'm dissatisfied with something, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So just take this with just a little bit of grain of salt, and let's jump in. So to start off, I'll answer a question that you would probably like to be answered. What is the genre of Expedition? And also, if you didn't catch it at the end of my introduction video, I said, so I hope you enjoy this Expedition, which was supposed to hint towards the fact that my game is actually called Expedition. But I wouldn't blame you if you didn't catch it. Anyways, what is the genre of Expedition? Well, I want it to primarily be an open world game. I want the game to really capture the beauty of God's creation from the safety of a computer screen, or a PlayStation screen, or a Nintendo screen, or an Atari screen. I also want it to secondarily be a survival game, but without hunger and thirst. The reason for this is because I want the main focus of the game to be the overworld and marveling at its beauty, which might be hindered by managing hunger and thirst. So I'll probably just take a Breath of the Wild approach in terms of food and drink. Despite this, there will still be some survival elements, which we'll get to in a bit. The game is also set in a post-apocalyptic world, where the population has declined, people are basically living in villages, and animals are hyper-aggressive. There's a lore reason for that, but I'll reveal it in a later video. Now, another question that you probably have, what is the overworld? Well, it's the entire world. I know, not ambitious at all. I'll just get someone else to do it. So before even describing the enemies, are there enemies in the game? Yes, there are. They take the form of normal animals, as well as animals that were previously extinct, like dinosaurs. However, they won't be called enemies. This is because, well, it's not really the animals' faults that they're hyper-aggressive. I feel like the term enemy implies that they're evil or something, but they're not. So instead, they're just called animals. And yes, that sounds silly, but it's similar to how enemies in Grounded are called creatures, even though some of them aren't. Also, there is a lore reason to why the animals are hyper-aggressive, but you'll have to wait till another video to find out the reason. But anyways, you're probably wondering, can I violence them? Yes. Combat in Expedition will be a combination of Breath of the Wild's combat, with its focusing and dodging mechanic, Grounded, where swinging a weapon will drain your stamina, and some of my own flavor, like the fact that you don't actually kill anything. Instead, you knock things unconscious. But the reason for that is also something that will be revealed in a later video. Additionally, when animals wake up from their sleep, that's basically them respawning. Also, a few side notes. 1, the Breath of the Wild-like dodging mechanic will not give you flurry rushes. In fact, it doesn't really give you anything except getting out of harm's way. I think that the flurry rush mechanic made Breath of the Wild just a little bit too easy, and I definitely want this game to be somewhat hard, so that mechanic is left out. Probably good that it is. Same perspective also applies with bullet time, and there will be no bullet time. 2, there will actually be a select few animals that you can kill. These are only small bugs that bite you, in which you can just crush them with your hand, just like in real life. But anyways, what do you use for combat? To obtain weapons in Expedition, you'll have to defeat, that's the term for kill in this game, animals and harvest their parts with a machine called the Harvester, Again, a thing you'll have to wait for in another video. These resources you collect can be crafted into different equipment. And by the way, crafting was the leftover survival element that I mentioned near the start of the video. There are 6 types of equipment: weapons, shields, utilities, armor, gliders, and trinkets. Yes, I stole the trinket idea from Grounded. Weapons are the main source of damage output used by the player. They're also the main way of defending yourself offensively against the animals. Shields are the main way of defending yourself defensively. They allow you to block incoming attacks at the cost of stamina, and their durability, of course. You can also parry with them, like in Breath of the Wild. There are 2 types of parries. There's the Breath of the Wild parry, which I basically just copied, and there's the bite parry. Basically, if you hold out a shield right before an animal bites you, it'll bite down on the shield instead, and then you can parry, which will then cause the animal to be stunned because you just, what's the word? Pushed its mouth? Armor is the primary method of defensive action against animals. They too have durability, and their durability will be reduced with every hit you sustain. There will also be multiple types of armor pieces, like in something like Minecraft or Grounded. There will be headwear, chestwear, legwear, and footwear, like in Minecraft, basically. Utilities are a select few things like torches that are used to help you survive in the world. They have durability and they can be used as a weapon, but that's not their primary function. Gliders are basically a mix of the paraglider from Breath of the Wild, the dandelion tufts from Grounded, and, you guessed it, some of my own flavor. They allow you to glide through the air about as fast as the paraglider, if not maybe faster, have durability and are not a special item like the dandelion tufts, and are craftable, which comes from my own flavor. Trinkets are basically the trinkets from Grounded, where you can equip it and be given a certain buff. The only difference with my trinkets versus Grounded trinkets is that Grounded trinkets are usually found throughout the overworld or as rare drops from creatures. In Expedition, all trinkets are crafted. Also, every piece of equipment has something called an equipment bonus. Equipment bonuses are special buffs that are unique to a specific piece of equipment. They usually trigger under a certain circumstance. For example, the Perching Bird glider. Its equipment bonus is Swift Takeoff, which increases gliding speed by 50% for 5 seconds whenever you start gliding. Every equipment bonus is supposed to symbolize/simulate the equipment's parts animal's attributes. For example, the aforementioned Swift Takeoff bonus is supposed to simulate a bird suddenly taking off from its perch. Doesn't it always seem like they fly more quickly than when they take off? I don't know, maybe it's just an illusion, but I don't care. The point is, you get the idea. I hope. Now, this isn't an aspect that all games have, but some do, and Expedition gets its own adaptation of it. Haha, get it? I said adaptation. Adaptations are my game's first cousin twice removed of mutations from Grounded. I say first cousin twice removed because adaptations, while sharing some attributes from Grounded's mutations, act decently differently than mutations. In Grounded, you could obtain mutations by defeating bosses, running out of stamina enough times, and so on and so on. That's basically the same in Expedition. The adaptations even have different levels, just like the mutations. However, adaptations are meant to feel like they're gained more passively. For example, if you get hit enough times, you'll eventually gain additional health. If you run out of stamina enough times, you'll eventually gain additional stamina. It's supposed to make you feel like you're getting stronger just by playing the game, which I quite like. Additionally, adaptations are supposed to be more realistic than Grounded's mutations, and they also are unable to be toggled on and off. Once you have them, they're active forever. Like adaptations, dungeons are not present in all games. However, they're present in quite a few, like Tears of the Kingdom. Dungeons are places in a game that test the player's experience with a certain area in the game, or experience with the game as a whole. So, for example, the Fire Temple from Tears of the Kingdom. It has gloom boulders all over the place, which you need to break to solve puzzles. Before you even got to the temple, you were already breaking gloom boulders, so the game is testing your knowledge and skill with this part of the game. For example, in one room, there's a gloom boulder on the ceiling, but Yunobo, the guy you used to break the boulders, can't just roll up the wall. So you have to find a slope that will allow Yunobo to roll up the wall and into the boulder. Additionally, dungeons are called different things from game to game. In Tears of the Kingdom, they're called temples. In Grounded, they're called labs. In my game, dungeons will be called facilities. There will be one for each continent, and they will have a boss at the end of them. Also, once you complete all 7 facilities, you can unlock the final boss. With a name like Expedition, my game is heavily focused on exploration. Obviously, you can jump, walk, sprint, swim, and sprint swim. But you can also climb depending on the terrain. But not like Link, he is a straight up superhero. Also, if you have a glider, you can glide throughout things like canyons. You'll also be able to explore underwater, which I've always loved both in video games and in real life. I really want exploration to be a big focus, and also something that is breathtakingly enjoyable. Habitats are my version of biomes from other games like Minecraft. You see, something like a swamp may seem like a biome, but it's actually technically called a habitat. What is a biome is a wetland, and a swamp is a type of wetland. I'm just going off the technical names here. I also learned that from Wikipedia. Fun fact, everything, well, almost everything, in Expedition, at least in its development phase, is learned from Wikipedia. This means that not all the information might be accurate, but I don't want to search for other more accurate sources, and Wikipedia is the most easy source to use, so I'm just using Wikipedia. This means that I, or we, if it was a development team, would have to use more true sources. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Habitats can be extremely diverse, from tundras to deserts to marshes to deciduous forests. Each habitat will have its own unique animals and resources, as well as recurring ones. There are also a few custom habitats, but I'll talk about those in a later video. Landmarks are, well, landmarks in some games that usually have some resources or other valuables. They are also usually somewhat small. Landmarks will also be an expedition, but they will be split into 2 different categories. This is because you could call something like Stonehenge a landmark, but you could also call something like Mount Everest a landmark. There is a lot of variation between what you could call a landmark, which means, like I mentioned, that they will be split into 2 different categories. The first category is just landmark. These are landmarks that are generally pretty small and may contain some unique or out-of-place resources. The second category is wonder, short for natural wonder. These are places like the Great Barrier Reef or Mount St. Helens. They're essentially a habitat with a specific name, like a proper noun. Wonders will also have a large amount of resources depending on the habitat they are. Villages are settlements built by people, or some people-like race, in various games, like Breath of the Wild. They're usually the hotspot for NPCs, quests, shops, etc. In Expedition, villages will be no different. However, they go by a different name, settlements. I just didn't want to use the word village because it sounded too primitive, even though settlements in Expedition are primitive. I don't care. It differentiates it from other games. Upgrades are the way you make your weapons, armor, tools, etc. better in various games. In Expedition, the method is applying keratin to your equipment via advanced machinery. You get keratin by shredding various animal parts like claws or fur. Different parts would give different amounts of keratin, and I'm really proud of this concept. Quests are objectives in some video games, usually given out by NPCs, that require the player to complete a certain task. Usually completing those tasks will reward you with, well, a reward. Quests will also be an Expedition. They will usually have someone asking the player to defeat an enemy or collect an item for them or something. You will also get rewards for it, just like in other games. There will be main quests that tie directly to the story, progress the story, and give more insight into it. And there will also be side quests that either don't tie into the story at all, or do give some context to the story, but not as much as main quests. They also don't progress the story at all. With an overworld as big as Expedition's, fast travel is almost necessary, which is why I have it. There are two forms of fast travel. The first one is a less powerful method created by humans that want to serve in the post-apocalyptic world they live in. I say less powerful because they can only take you to specific places, probably via some man-driven carriage or something. The second form is the FTLUR, or Faster Than Light Underground Railroad. This is a tunnel system with carts that can travel faster than the speed of light built by humanity that allows people to travel to different places throughout the world. And it still works in the apocalypse somehow. This is the main form of fast travel, and it will be very helpful when trying to get from place to place quickly. Also, if you want to fast travel to a point, you have to find that fast travel point on the surface of the overworld before you can fast travel to it via the FTLUR. In my game, you won't be able to customize your own person to play as. Instead, you will play as one of 4 specific characters: Mike, Anthony, Shyla, and Ruby. Mike is the memey one, Anthony is the nerd, Shyla is the sassy one, and Ruby's the cautious one. This concept is similar to Grounded, where you could choose between one of 4 teenagers to play as, and they all had their own personalities. And that's it. Just note that all the things in this video are subject to change, because this game is constantly changing. And with that, thank you all so much for watching this, and since you stayed to the end of the video, I'll give you a little bit of a surprise. Here are the Allosaurus sound effects.